A man presumed dead for 15 years returns a dropped wallet, only to face the ghosts of his past and an unexpected chance at redemption. But as truths unravel, he wonders if some secrets are better left buried. But before we start, if you guys like this story, please comment below and subscribe to Story Storer. Please hit the bell icon. Thank you. The man sprinted across the park, his breath ragged, feet pounding against the paved path. Trees blurred past him, their skeletal branches clawing at the overcast sky. In his hand, he clutched a weathered brown wallet, its fraying edges a testament to years of use. Behind him, the young woman shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "Wait, please," she called, stumbling as she tried to keep up. He skidded to a halt near the edge of the pond, chest heaving, heart racing for reasons beyond the exertion. Her footsteps grew louder until she reached him, breathless and wide-eyed. "That's mine," she panted, pointing to the wallet in his hand. For a moment, he hesitated, his fingers tightening around the worn leather. Her face, young, hopeful, desperate, triggered a flood of memories he'd fought to bury. He glanced down at the wallet, then back at her. "Sorry," he muttered, extending it toward her. Relief washed over her as she snatched it back. "Thank you. I didn't think I'd get it back." She flipped it open, checking its contents. "Everything's still here." Her eyes softened. "I thought you were running off with it." He shook his head, his voice rough. "Number just instinct, I guess." She frowned, her gaze lingering on him as though trying to solve a puzzle. The lines etched across his face and the faint gray threading through his hair spoke of years that hadn't been kind. Yet beneath the wear and tear, something stirred in her memory, a fleeting recognition. "Do I know you?" she asked, tilting her head. His lips tightened into a thin line. "No." But the denial came too quickly, too sharply, as though spoken out of habit rather than truth. She narrowed her eyes, searching his face for clues. There was something about his demeanor, a haunted air, as if he carried the weight of untold stories. "You remind me of someone," she admitted cautiously. "From a long time ago." He forced a smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I get that a lot." Before she could press further, he turned abruptly, as though trying to escape her scrutiny. But her voice halted him mid-step. "Wait," she said softly. "What's your name?" A palpable tension hung in the air, the question carrying more weight than she realized. He hesitated, caught between the urge to flee and the need to confront the past. He swallowed hard, knowing the truth would unravel everything. But something about the earnestness in her eyes made it impossible to lie. "It's David," he said at last, the name sounding foreign after years of silence. Her breath caught. "David? David Harper?" The name lingered between them, heavy with meaning. His throat tightened as memories clawed their way to the surface. Laughter, tears, mistakes that haunted his dreams. "Yeah," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Shock flickered across her face, followed by something softer, almost tender. "I can't believe it. You've been gone for so long." He lowered his gaze, shame twisting in his chest. Too long. The weight of 15 years hung between them, a chasm filled with unspoken questions and fractured memories. Tears welled in her eyes. "I can't believe it. We thought you were dead." David's jaw tightened. "I should have been," he muttered, guilt cutting through him. She shook her head, number. "We thought about you every day, your family, your parents. They never gave up hope." His chest constricted, and the weight of his abandonment hit him all over again. He'd left because he thought it was the only way to protect them, to shield them from his mistakes. But in doing so, he'd crushed their hopes, left them to wonder what had happened to him. "They never stopped looking for you," she said softly. He closed his eyes, the crushing shame of the past pressing in. I didn't deserve their hope. Her voice trembled. But they didn't care. They just wanted you back. David swallowed hard, the quiet ache of regret impossible to ignore. Why did you leave? Her voice was soft, but the question cut deep, pulling David back to the past he had long buried. He looked away, unwilling to meet her gaze, but the weight of the question pressed on him like a stone. I thought I was doing the right thing, he muttered, his throat tight. I thought I was protecting everyone by walking away. I made bad choices, decisions that hurt people, that hurt you, and I thought if I just disappeared, it would be better. She watched him, her expression softening with a queasy understanding. You could have come back, you know. You didn't have to vanish. He swallowed hard, his chest tight with regret. I couldn't. Not after everything I'd done. I thought leaving would make it easier for everyone. I didn't want to drag anyone down with me. A deep sadness filled his voice, the years of regret and guilt catching in his words. You don't know that for sure, she said gently, her voice steady. People don't stop loving you because you made mistakes. You could have come home, David. He closed his eyes, the memories flooding back. The weight of his decisions, the pain he caused, it all rushed forward. But beneath it there was something else, something faint but real. Hope. They sat in silence beneath the oak tree, the rustling leaves offering a quiet backdrop to their heavy thoughts. David struggled to find the right words, unsure of where to start, but the weight of the moment felt too important to ignore. Finally, he spoke. I never realized how much I missed talking to someone. Not just small talk, but really talking. She smiled gently. I get it. It's been a long time, hasn't it? David nodded, the quiet settling between them more comfortable than he expected. She told him about her life in the years he'd been gone, the changes in town, how people still spoke of him with both sorrow and hope. I wish I'd come back sooner, he said, regret thick in his voice. It's not too late, she replied, her tone steady, reassuring. For the first time in years, David felt a flicker of something he'd long buried. Hope. Hours passed as they sat together, the sun dipping lower in the sky. The conversation ebbed and flowed, from memories of the past to the details of the present, each word peeling away layers of time. David listened, absorbed in her recounting of the years he'd missed, her life, the town's changes, the familiar faces that had remained. She spoke of his parents, how they'd never given up searching for him, how they held on to the hope that one day he'd return. The mention of his family stirred something in David, a blend of longing and fear. Ah, your parents still live in the same house, she said softly, her voice tinged with empathy. They never moved. They've waited for you. His heart clenched. I don't know if they can forgive me. I left without a word, without a trace. They never stopped loving you, she said, her eyes steady on his. People don't just forget the ones they love no matter what. David's eyes welled with emotion, the pain of years spent apart flooding his chest. He wanted to believe her, to believe that it wasn't too late to make things right. You should go back, she urged quietly. They're waiting for you. And for the first time in years, David felt the stirrings of hope, fragile but undeniable. As the sun sank below the horizon, casting warm light across the park, David felt a shift within him. The weight of his past remained, but it no longer seemed insurmountable. He glanced at the woman beside him, her presence a reminder of the possibility of change. Ready to take the first step? She asked, her voice steady and kind. David nodded, a spark of determination igniting within him. "Yeah, let's go." Together, they walked toward the path leading back to town, where family, forgiveness, and a new future waited. The past couldn't be undone, but the future was still his to shape.